What is up, down, and sideways, all you truly beautiful individuals? This is another epi of League Unlocked. My name is Eric, flying a little Han Solo on today's epi as we see a roller coaster find its way back onto the tracks, a surge of BROLIEVERS coming up through the LCK, surprise, little upset in the LPL, and we're going to look ahead to this tasty, exciting finale of the regular season in the LEC. Who are we going to feel the best about post MCOY Spanish Roadshow in the LEC? But we begin with the most unlikely of 2-0s, and it's not unlikely in the way that KT gets a 2-0. It's the fashion that they did it against Dplus Kia. Of course, we know KT was mired in a 2-game series losing streak coming into this, and it looked like it would and should maybe be at least a game loss in game one and potentially a series loss, as Dplus had all the control in game one for the first 20 minutes and then proceed to look like a classic LCS squad. And you know I do not mean that as a compliment, where someone gets picked off here, someone else gets picked off on a side lane. Dplus looks a little bit lost in terms of what to do with the goal lead that they had racked up and proceed to just roll over. Like, that's the only term I can have for it. Greatly contested with the Scion running in to die at the Baron pit, and then from there Dplus had such a struggle closing out with the gold lead that they had, and in one fell Baron buff swoop, really, the game was over. KT knew exactly what to do with the lead and kind of gave them a lesson on how to close things out, as aiming has one of these, surprise or less surprising so far here in 2026, but standout Ashe performances where absolutely nobody was able to touch him. Perfect positioning helps to have the Seraphine kind of built all around him, but just a weird passive gameplay loss out of Dplus after having again, that pretty convincing early game. And it gets even worse in game two because, again, they amass a huge early game lead. It's even bigger in game two. There's some misplays out of BDD. Showmaker's Victor is an absolute menace. The Caitlyn Lux bot lane of Smash and Career gets a massive advantage. And again, even earlier, things start falling apart for Dplus. We're not even barely in the mid game yet, post 15 minutes, and it's still, well, that's why Dplus actually knows how to play the game still post 15 minutes, just barely, as they got an ace, and we're talking a 6k gold lead pre 20 minutes. But then again, they just get outplayed around the map by KT. They give up an inhib, and then it's two easy objective bounty turrets for Perfect and the Yunara for aiming to slowly get back into this. Smash walks in no man's land where he has no business being, but aside from getting that inhib, even with a Baron buff this time, Dplus just show they don't know how to play the map, or they're at a completely different tier than KT when it comes to that regard, as we don't even get an Elder Dragon at this point. The TP flank for Perfect comes in. He doesn't even die, and Dplus are just scattering and running before this team fight even ends up playing. It ends up taking 10 minutes longer than that first game, but again, KT is ending with almost a 6k gold lead, and that's what Dplus had. So absolutely egregious. KT has no business winning this series 2-0, and it feels even worse to lose in this fashion for Dom1, or Dplus, excuse me, than if you just got stomped both games, because you had, like, the VOD review is going to be rough for these players, because you go through the first 20 minutes of both of these games, and if I'm the coaching staff, you've got to be saying, how did we lose? Why are we 0-2 after this? But it's a bounce back either way for, obviously, KT to stop the losing streak, and Dplus looking firmly slotted in that 5 spot now when you're talking about the overall ranking of LCK squads. But absolutely some of the same issues we've had for Dplus for a very long time, but usually they're not this egregious or this badly, and they got to even be sweating what's behind them in the rankings, because don't look now. The BROLIEVERS, who have been with us for a long time, are starting to be rewarded, as it is yet another riding the momentum type of win for the Bros, matching up against BFX, and I don't know what they put in Gideon's breakfast on this day. I don't know what type of protein powder was added, because this guy was absolutely juiced in both of the games against BFX. The genius Nocturne wait in the jungle to steal first blood, and the Gromp to get things snowballing, and then he was an absolute menace, terrorizing everybody as soon as the lights went out on BFX. All they could do was run away. But we're in a world where the bros, Hanj and Briand, are way better and more comfortable and clean with the lead than what we were getting out of Dplus Kia, because as soon as they were racking up a 3-4K gold lead, the game was done and dusted. And if like the Nocturne game was one thing that looked clean, and we're accustomed to, you know, Grandpa Teddy being the star of this bro squad with the young guns around him. But yes, today it was all about Gideon doing it on the Nocturne and then doing it on a Trundle. Usually Kanabi's the only guy that you're actually putting forth some highlights on the Trundle, and I will say casting was also, we'll call it a 2v8 in this one between Gideon and casting. The Zahen, which has kind of fallen out of the prioritization for a lot of squads, either top lane or jungle, but he was absolutely unkillable, and you see what he is capable of when he does get a little bit fed, as we have seen multiple times. But him and Gideon, absolutely indestructible in this series. And BFX, yeah, game 2 was a little bit closer, but again, as soon as Bro grabbed the lead, they absolutely took over this game to steamroll their way to not just their 3rd straight series win in a row, but they have won it 2-0, 2-0, 2-0 during that winning streak to now be, well, they're tied with Nongshim for that 6th spot, which, if you recall, is the final squad that will get an opportunity to play in this Road to MSI qualifier in the LCK. But almost looking at a higher level than Dplus if you look at the 2 series that we saw today. So absolutely, the BROLIEVERS are eating good today, as question marks for Dplus and excitement for the bros. We can use the E word with them, just not with a little-known KT Rollster squad. We were very excited about the surging Anyone's Legend, NIP. They're frauds, even though they got that win against BLG, but now showcasing that, no, we deserve to be in that winners bracket, winners group side of the LPL, as they absolutely crash the momentum and hype that was going the way of AL. There was a teensy tiny little bot lane gap in this entire series, as Awesome continues to probably just be a tryout for maybe taking this AL spot from Hope or one of these other top tier squads in the LPL, maybe looking for new AD carries, because I know it's absolutely stacked in the LPL, but Awesome has had just that type of a split. Awesome, in case you didn't get that. Guwon also kind of gapped Tarzan in both of these games, especially, you know, some clean pathing on the Lee Sin in the second game. Obviously getting a very early second kill, you know, level 2 gank usually works pretty well with that red buff. But Awesome was absolutely the star in this one, as we continue to see some underwhelming Mel performances in both the LCK and the LPL. That wasn't it for Shanks in this one. Truthfully, both Shanks and Care were not fantastic in this series. It was very much about some of the other lanes, but actually happy to see NIP kind of bounce back. They were absolutely on a losing trajectory towards the bottom of that upper LPL group of squads, but AL, a little bit of a reality check. We pumped the brakes a bit, and maybe, again, good for this to happen a little bit before playoffs. There's still very much question marks, primarily Hope and Kyle, more so Hope than Kyle. At this level, I just don't see AL taking any best of 5s against some of these other top squads that have Gala Vampire, Viper on, Jackie Love down in the bot lane and Fengyue on top esports. I just don't see the bot lane being able to hold their own against them. So very much still the main thing to be concerned about AL going forward. Nothing to be concerned about in the LEC as we head towards this finale of the regular season, the Hype Road Show in Spain, which, as you remember, the last time we had one of these, there was the Fnatic MCOY match, which was an absolute banger. The crowd was super into it, even though maybe the stakes aren't the highest. We know all 4 of the squads that are going to be taking place this weekend are going to be in playoffs. Seeding, I mean, you don't want to be bottom 2, and Giant X maybe G2 or Koi are one of them are going to be, or both of them are going to be 5-6 unless, they get some wins and somehow send Na'Vi down there, which would be insane. There's a lot of combinations that could still happen, but there is still some importance. So who are we going to be leaving this event feeling the best with? Well, I don't think Giant X is going 0-3. I think GX actually picks up at least one win here. There's no way Carmine Corp are going 3-0. They are not going to get that perfect split. I think we get a surprise, maybe even 1-2 showing out of KC, so that they dip into that second seed and Vitality clinches number 1 heading into playoffs. But I think it's Koi that's going to level up the most. I mean, wow, really super hot take that they'll have the home crowd behind them. But you can say that what comes with that is some added pressure. If you watch the teaser video, though, Caps kind of alluded to MKOI's play style, putting a lot of emphasis on getting Jojo Pion ahead, and we've highlighted the numbers and performance that this dude has had. MVP frontrunner alongside Knock Knocko in the LEC, so I'm excited to see that matchup. Jojo Pion got to be extra motivated anytime he matches up against the GOAT of EU in Caps, especially still trying to avenge that 3-0 finals loss from LEC Versus. So I think MKOI replicates what KC did in their own roadshow and goes a perfect 3-0. It's not going to be clean 2-0s in these series because MKOI doesn't do clean on the Rift. They'll be messy. There'll be a lot of game 3s, but I think in terms of the 4 squads here this weekend, I think you got a impressive MKOI performance. G2 going to level up as well. KC maybe goes 1-2, and Giant X maybe goes 1-2. I don't even know if those numbers make out, but a mini power ranking for how we feel of these 4 squads going forward. I think it's going to be MKOI 1, again, based just on this weekend. G2 in that second spot. KC, a surprise 1-2. Giant X maybe also going 1-2. But either way, it's going to really be a banger of a weekend and just make us sad that we don't get more of these and make us crave a bigger venue for some of these international events. We'll see what we end up getting in terms of atmosphere for the Mid-Season Invitational in South Korea, but we're just, it's desert dry for some of these actual hype venues because it felt like the LEC Versus First Stand didn't even fully deliver on that because it was such a small venue, even though the Brazilian fans were doing their absolute damnedest, so they still remain the most hyped fan group that there is out there. That is it today, though, for League Unlocked. My name is Eric. You're all beautiful. As always, thank you for staying, hanging out, supporting us as always, and you best believe we'll catch you on that flippity flip.